Hello everyone, welcome back to Naomi's Bookshelf. It's been a very long time since I've done an Agatha Christie review, but we are finally here for an Agatha Christie 3 review of Hallowe'en Party, The Man in the Brown Suit, and Cat Among the Pigeons. It has been so long since I filmed my spoiler-free and spoiler thoughts on these or on any Agatha Christie, so I'm so sorry if I forgot details. I guess I just blanked on the fact that I do these videos. Oops. So we're gonna go spoiler-free first, and then we'll get into spoilers. Thankfully, it hasn't been too long since I read these books, but anyways, let's get into it. So the first book we'll talk about will be The Man in the Brown Suit. This one is Agatha Christie's third book that she ever wrote. This one is a Colonel Race mystery. And it is about a woman who, when she is very young, she is, I think, 20 years old or something like that, her father dies and he leaves her basically with nothing. She's basically penniless, and she decides to make her fortune by becoming a reporter. So what she does is she discovers a murder, and she follows the trail on basically a grand adventure all the way on a boat ride, and she travels, and it is a very grand adventure that way. It is very interesting and action-packed. I really enjoyed this one. I feel like it has a lot of great elements, and you can see that Agatha Christie is really finding her way when it comes to weaving a story together, and it uses a lot of these diary entry forms to put the story together, and as you read it, it really comes cohesive. I had read it before, but I didn't know who it had been or who was the whodunit in this book. You're also trying to discover who the man in the brown suit is, and is he the murderer, is he not the murderer? How is he connected to this real case that you're trying to solve? And I think it's a really genius way of doing it. So I think this is a real gem of Agatha Christie's early work. The next book we'll talk about will be Hallowe'en Party. This one is a mystery where we follow Ariadne Oliver as she goes to a Halloween party, and at this Halloween party, a girl named Joyce tells everyone that she witnessed a murder, and she refuses to tell anyone details about the murder, but she tells everyone, I saw a murder, it was years ago, I'm not going to tell anyone else about it. But during this party, she ends up dead, and during this time, Ariadne Oliver then goes to talk to Poirot, and Poirot decides to solve the case, and he and Ariadne Oliver join forces. I love seeing Ariadne Oliver in these books because it's such a play on Agatha Christie herself. I loved how she made fun of herself as a mystery writer and how she loved to bring those elements into the book. But I also love how Poirot really works in this case. I think this is a really clever one and a great one for the autumn feels, but it's also not super spooky or Halloween-y. It would be great for any time of the year. And I think that this one is best knowing little. I mean, a lot of Agatha Christie's are best knowing little, but this one really does go from that point of the party and going forward. All right, the next one, last one for this video, will be Cat Among the Pigeons. This one is very similar to Hallowe'en Party, as this one references this book a lot, so maybe you'd want to read Cat Among the Pigeons first. But this one, in Cat Among the Pigeons, is about a school where at the school a teacher is murdered, and it kind of follows an international affair of jewelry and espionage, and maybe not espionage, but a lot of elements. And I have to say, I didn't love this one. I did not really enjoy this one. I felt like it was kind of, I don't know, it felt unfinished, and it felt very slow for me. So this one is a Poirot novel, but Poirot does not show up until 66% of the way through the novel. I was reading it also on ebook, and literally it's at 66% that he shows up. So I feel like that's a bit of a ripoff for me. When I expect a Poirot novel to have Poirot in it, he better be there from page 1 or page 10 at the very least. Or at least, you know, he needs to be there earlier on. And so he was not present at all in the earlier book. There were other detectives working, and this one definitely felt like an independent novel, and it should have been an independent novel if that's where they were going. And I felt like then it would have been a much better book, in my opinion, instead of me waiting for Poirot to show up. So this one does follow the death of a teacher. This also follows the events of a school. This does have the elements of the tennis game. So if you're looking for a book that has games involved, this would be a great one for that. And this one is more so about the games, or the PE teacher essentially is the one who was murdered. So that's kind of where this book is about. So yes, my least favorite that I have read, I think, this year of Agatha Christie, but not a bad book compared to some of the other ones I have read of her books. I love most of them, but this is probably my lower ranking end. And then these two were spectacular, or maybe not 5 stars, but 4 stars at the very least. So we're going to get into spoiler territory now. I'm not sure how much I want to spoil of these, but if I do spoil anything, you have been warned. Okay, let's get into them. I also should say that I'm going to have the sections of what spoilers are for what, so you can jump around if you don't want to be spoiled for certain books. So for The Man in the Brown Suit, I really loved how this one followed. I think her name is Anne. Yes, Anne. A good memory for me. Thank goodness. So Anne, she really has this way about following the right trail. And these two actually go hand in hand. So I'm going to kind of talk about these spoilers for this after. But this one, I really loved how this followed the jewels and how she was able to kind of decipher the right clues at the right time. Sometimes she didn't quite get it, but I really enjoyed how Agatha Christie let us in on the clues earlier on, like the telegram and the different hints along the way. So she knew, and we knew as the audience, that certain things were not correct telegrams or were not correct letters. So I really appreciated that we were given insight into that knowledge. I like that this was much more of an adventure story than a mystery at points. And I think that this was great when we followed Anne and the man in the brown suit to Africa. And so we could see certain elements of the boat ride and the cabin, why the cabin was so important. I was fully convinced that it was her friend, not the secretary the whole time, which I thought was really interesting. And I never would have suspected the female secretary to be the man that they were all hunting for. Also, I never thought that it was his boss either, so crazy. I never predicted that, but I did really love this. And then I will talk about this one. This one, which just came out many, many years after. I'm not sure what year this one came out in. Also follows a jewelry heist where they're trying to find jewels which end up in a tennis racket. And I did not love this one. I felt like this one just was reusing material from previous novels that I've read. It felt kind of cliche and very predictable, and I just didn't think it was very easy. I mean, I felt like it was just so boring. I had to force myself to pick this up and read the sections, and if I had not been buddy reading it, I would have forgotten to read sections of this. I was reading this with Kevy, who I've read many Christies with, and I was like, oh, I have to read the section for today. Oh, I have to read another section. And that's the only way I finished this book, because of my buddy read. And I'm glad I finished this because I do want to read all of Christie's work, but that's the only reason. So now I'm going to spoil both of these. So, I mean, if you've watched both of this section, you know. But these two both have the jewelry hidden element. And it felt like, because I was reading both of them at the same time, I felt like it was using the exact same plot point where this had jewelry hiding in a film canister and this had jewelry hiding in a tennis racket, and then this one had, you know, the jewels being found, and this one had the jewels being found, and it was like, these are very similar storylines, and I just was like, this was done way better. And I felt like, even though this one was done way later, it just was too similar for me, so I didn't like that, and that's why this one ultimately got a 2-star from me. And I did not appreciate that. And I do know that Christie's later work tends to suffer, in my opinion, just due to maybe the lack of, you know, new stories. She had written so many stories at that point, but it was just too similar for my liking. So, unfortunate. And then the last book that we're going to talk about is Hallowe'en Party. So this one, I never suspected anything that was going on, right? And I actually suspected the headmistress, not realizing that the headmistress was the same character as that was in this one. So clearly this one made an impression on me, as in, I'm being sarcastic. So I did not realize that these two books were connected. And this book has actually references to a lot of other books. And the books that it's talking about might spoil other books. So be warned about reading Halloween Party. But I had no idea. And I did not realize the ploys in this. But once it was explained, it was like, oh, that's exactly how I should have been looking at this mystery. However, I did not foresee, you know, her, what's her name? Miranda, the girl's father, who had never been in the picture, being actually the one who's trying to kill her. It was a very graphic and very dark Christie for what Christie normally writes, considering it was very dark and very gruesome. Normally children aren't the murder victims in her books, and so that was kind of a surprise. There were 2 children who died in this book and a 3rd potential victim who was a child. So that was very sad and very disturbing. Also, the fact that Joyce died in a bowl of water at the party and no one saw anything was, yeah, very sad and very graphic. But I also wanted to say that where we were discussing this as a group with Kate Howe's book club, and it was a lot of talk about, you know, oh, Joyce was always a liar. And I was like, when I was reading this, I caught on right away that, like, just because Joyce is a liar and everyone's saying that she's a liar doesn't mean she's lying about the murder. Like, she could have been telling the truth about the murder, and that's obviously why she died, because she's telling the truth. So someone did die, someone did get murdered, and so someone killed her because of that being a true fact. So even if she might lie about all these other things, someone is a murderer, and someone killed her to keep that truth silent. So I did catch on to that fact, and I did think that that was really important to the storyline, even though everyone else in the story didn't seem to believe that she was telling the truth about the murder. And I was just like so gobsmacked with these characters who were like, oh, she always lies. I was like, no, clearly there's something there. Clearly she is telling the truth about someone actually dying, because no one would kill Joyce over just being a liar. That's not just an easy murderer ploy. So I thought that was an interesting storyline to hide behind. But Joyce was not actually the one who witnessed the murder. It was the other potential 3rd victim, her friend. So I, liked how that twisted on me, and I didn't see that part coming, but I did see that Joyce was not lying about a murder actually happening, and I didn't know who the actual victim was. A lot of those things were hidden from me. So that's my thoughts on these 3. I have read another Agatha Christie since reading these 3. I have not been on top of my Christie reviews, so I'm very sorry. I will be doing 2 more Christies at least in December, so don't worry, I will be having one up very shortly, as in like a couple weeks. So I'll be reading them, let me get them for you. So I will be reading The Big Four, which is the next book for the book club that's online on Facebook. I don't know anything about this. I know that Kevi hates this book, so I'm interested to see my thoughts on it. And this cover just looks very interesting to me. But yeah, it'll be fun. I'm sure it'll be fun. And then the next one will be The Sitterford Mystery, which is our group book for the Christies Missing Readathon. And if you haven't heard about it, you should very much check it out. I will link my announcement video up in the cards and down below for you to check it out if you love Agatha Christie, and I'm sure you do if you're still here at this point. Please go check it out and join us and read one Agatha Christie during the days of the 3rd to the 14th. Please do. We have the group book of The Sitterford Mystery, but you can read any Agatha Christie, and you have joined us. So yes, use the hashtag the Christies Missing Readathon 2021, and you're good. And will you let us know what you're reading? Please do. But anyways, these will be my next 2, and I'll be discussing them with the murder of Roger Ackroyd in my next video, which will be coming out during the readathon as well. So yeah, I'm so sorry I got behind on these videos, but I don't know why, but I do love talking about Agatha Christie, so that will not be happening again. But yes, so these will be my next 2, and I am very excited to get back into reading more Christie for December, kind of cozy, wintry time vibes. So please let me know if you've read any of these 3 and what are your thoughts on them, if you love them, hate them, or if you're in between. Also, please let me know down below in the comments if you'll be participating in the Christies Missing Readathon, and what are your next Christies that are up on your to-read list. I'd love to chat down below in the comments, and if you have liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you're new here, and I'll chat to you next time. Bye!